but I think it's important to just set the stage about when do we have a conflict. And obviously we talk about things like disagreements and variance in perspectives, which has come up a lot already, oppositions. But the bottom line is conflict occurs every day when people work together. And sometimes it's just a little minor moment, and sometimes it escalates. And one of the messages that I think is so important is that we'll work on, and we're going to do a little bit of a style analysis and what's your style when you go into conflict, which is we all have conflict and we want to see the signs, we want to know the triggers, the other slide of what's coming back there, thank you, what perspectives may trigger people, so we cut them off as quickly as possible because conflict can be so destructive in the workplace. Is anyone willing to share where they experience conflict and sort of the pervasive effect of it on the larger, not necessarily the conflict itself, but what happened to the workplace because of the conflict? So sometimes our first response is, like, that person is too difficult, and so we're all gonna, but maybe they bring something really valuable. I share lots of examples from my consulting career because it is just rife with awesomeness to learn from. Sometimes we have to be really, really strategic because it's not as simple as, well, let's just have a conflict resolving conversation. We sometimes have to be a lot more strategic in our workarounds. Great. Other experiences anyone is willing to share about where the conflict has pervaded the work environment. A huge area of conflict in the workplace is between internal departments. They don't think what I do is as important as what they do. They don't respect how I do my work, and so I can't do what they do because I'm running after children. I don't have time to fill out reports. Versus, they're so busy playing with children, they're not taking seriously that this is a financial institution and we have to make budgetary decisions, right? And that becomes everything about how those two departments get along. And so we go downhill. So we then need to strategize, how do we work around, respect what everybody needs out of it, and hopefully at least peacefully coexist, which sometimes is what we're seeking. And in other cases, we're not all customer facing, or we don't all see ourselves as customer facing, so we look at our responsibility to the customer in a very different light.
But which also is the internal or external.
Yes,
customer.
Absolutely, great. Others before we, okay, let's see if I can do this. All right, causes of conflict. So I have a few generally obvious ones up there, in addition to some of the perspectives which drive conflict in and of themselves. But sometimes we have certain actual events, lack of information, competing priorities. Stress is a huge one. Stress of upcoming deadlines is a huge one. Lack of resources, past experience, which I know got raised earlier, generational, as we've talked about. Others that are missing from this list. What happens in a day-to-day, in the moment, that starts that up?
The stress of just the day. Ad hoc things. Oh, my daughter's sick, I have to go pick her up, or and I have 5 minutes to discuss this with you,
right,
versus our hour meeting that we had planned.
Right, good. There was it Jessica?
I already saw it.
Up there, okay. Other ones? Here's a huge one. Email, texting, okay? It's a huge problem, right? I am 100% sure that nothing in that email was controversial. Yet you read it, it was the most controversial thing you've heard. So I'm gonna ask, you all are a big table. Just as a very quick activity, I'm gonna ask you to each read the next successive line. You are to put the emphasis on the highlighted word. It will become clear what's happening. So you just start and keep going.
I did not say you were stupid.
I did not say you were stupid.
I did not say you were stupid.
Wait, which one?
You're probably on the fourth one down.
The fourth one? I did not say you were stupid.
Somebody else is stupid.
I did not say you were stupid. That's totally what I would say, by the way.
I did not say you were stupid.
No, I said you're a moron. Okay, right? It's one little sentence, meaningless words. Send them in a text, we've got conflict, right? Because everybody, they read it the way I instructed, but they read it with the emphasis they were looking for, okay? The way we combat this, people, pick up the phone, okay? There's your conflict resolution. I can go home now. Pick up the telephone sometimes. Okay, sometimes we just need to have a conversation. The discourse of our society is making this worse. We don't often assume positive intent, right? Somebody's going to have an event, so therefore everybody else sees that they didn't think about me. Instead of, wow, that's a great event. Wow, it's going to take a little extra work to get that done, but it's a great event, and so it's worth it. Right? We have failed to think about positive intent. So you see the conflict coming. Really what you're doing is preempting the conflict and trying to solve it before you involve anyone else. We all in human nature suffer from the recency effect. The person we spoke to last is right, but actually not always. So doing exactly what you're pointing out, Rebecca, and taking that minute to actually look at the totality of it is really, really important. Stacy and then Shauna.
I think also with working, especially in this community, with other partners, like I'm gonna throw out our two little campus now. So from the J, like Pearlstone runs a program that we help manage, and last year was the first year that we did it, and we were giving reports, and we really weren't sure what we were doing because we didn't know how they were using information. So this year we sat down, had a big conversation. How are you using this? What do you need? Why do you need it? And I think we were able to come back to a better understanding, but it took like myself and my supervisor, we had to literally sit there in a meeting and go, wait a second, like we have to put ourselves in their shoes,
Right.
and also understand like what they're trying to come from and what their goals are.
Right.
And it was like we kept having to pull ourselves back in, going, well, they don't know it. Maybe they do need it because of this.
Right.
You know. And
Right.
I think we hopefully came to a better solution. We'll find
Right.
out. We'll tell you in
Right.
August.
Good. I look forward to it. It gets back to my pick up the phone, right?
Right.
Pick up the phone. Have a conversation. We're all sensitive people. Some of us are just more forward facing with it or not. So we end up in this tension between emotional and logical, right? Everything I'm going to give you is logical. You all can shake your head. You know I'm right in the moment. Right now, listening to it, the problem is in the moment dealing with it, you have this tension between the emotional response to something that's happened. I'm stressed, something happened at work, or at home, I have competing priorities at work. It's snowing, thank you, it's not. I think it's the first time I've been here in many years it's not snowing. But something is happening that's all leading to an emotional response to what we want to give a logical answer to. So, great point. All right, if you look in the consider this box, it says, think about a current event involving conflict in the news. What were the causes, factors, and how could it have been avoided? So what I'd like you to do is, you guys are 3, that's easy, you're 4. Why don't you guys back there split into 2 and you as well? And just think about a current event, a current news event. We've got plenty. But really think through the process. What was the conflict? How did it manifest? How could it have been avoided, right? Because thankfully the news today gives us everything we need to know how to fix things. Okay? So just take about 3 minutes to do that at your groups.